let's take this to the people. Let's take this to the people. Hold on. Hi, welcome. Come on
Let's
in. Tell
see.
us, yeah, tell us in the chat where you're located.
Yeah, I emailed like 100 and something thousand plus people. So let's see
Oh
how many
wow.
show up on the short notice.
Okay, yeah, that was short. Yeah, that'd be great. We'd love to find out where you're from. And I'm just gonna do a little last minute thing here myself and get some Facebook action going. We always love to give you both Zoom and Facebook because not everyone likes Facebook. I get it. It's good for what it's good for, but we're gonna pop this into our Facebook group with 25,000. Is not everyone brilliant people? If you don't know about that Facebook group, Clarissa's here. Hi, Laura B. And she can post a link for it. Los Angeles, Prescott, Colorado, Alameda, the UK, Bournemouth, the UK, Ottawa Valley. Hello. Good to have you all here. Thank you so much. Well, I'm sure easy for me to say, Evan. I just bit my lip. I'm Siobhan Sarna, and this is Evan Brand. And I am the creator of 9 online summits about everything from gut health to dental health to the liver gallbladder to the lymph system. And right now we're taking enrollment for the free viewing of the Fascia and Chronic Pain Rescue Summit, which premieres October 24th. So very excited about all of these underserved body parts systems that are finally getting out there to the world. So thank you so much for all of your participation, and Evan for being in my summits over the time. And it's really exciting to be with everyone today.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for coming. Let's jump right in. You ready, Siobhan?
I got 2 minutes. Two
Oh,
minutes,
okay.
just in case somebody is like really like hustling to show up. I want them to be with us in the 2 minute zone. So what we're going to do today is talk about Evan's protocol and how he uses functional testing to help people solve their overall body problems, as well as, of course, and especially the gut, since it starts in the gut most of the time. But also, what you may not know about Evan is that he is also a specialist in mold, mold illness, and also the environment. So he has a course also called the Better Home course, which is about how to make your house non-toxic and how to deal with mold. So the first time I ever saw Evan was he was doing a like YouTube video or something, and he had a house that had just been redone. He was showing the floors and the walls and everything. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I got to know him and his Candida summit, and then I had him on my summits. And so he's a wealth of information. But I love that part of your practice, Evan, because you're bringing in the environmental factors as well as these functional tests. And Evan has these protocols and the ways to utilize these tests that even we civilians can utilize in our everyday life. And it is a huge resource, his Better Belly course. So we're going to take you through all of that. We're glad you're here. And Evan's a wealth of information. I call him the third opinion guy because people go to the first opinion, or they go to the second opinion. Third opinion, Evan. Oh my gosh, I wish I had gone to you first.
Or the 20th. Yeah, I just had a woman,
Yeah.
actually, she's a young woman, 21 years old. I just got off the call with her before you and I jumped on here. We looked at her mycotoxin lab results, and she has insane off the chart level of mycotoxins. She's been living in her boyfriend's moldy apartment. They had water damage. They had a flood 3 months ago, and now she's got UTIs. Now she's got brain fog, depression, anxiety, insomnia, joint pain, food sensitivities, histamine intolerance, new allergies. And so this is a huge problem. So yeah, we're going to rip this thing.
Okay. Let's get into the presentation, Evan. Thank you so
Cool.
much. Michael Singh's been to 9 doctors. Oh, I can
Yeah.
relate. Yeah.
That's about the average. Yeah, probably 9 to 15 doctors before people get to me. Most people have been to 3 gastroenterologists at least. They've already done colonoscopies and endoscopies, and those really don't work because if you have any type of gut issue, In general, it is not a pathological problem, meaning maybe you don't have colon cancer, maybe you don't have ulcers, but you have this big functional problem. And the reality is, the functional medicine world, we look at things from a perspective of dysfunction, meaning, okay, you might have parasites, worms, candida, bacterial overgrowth, and H. pylori, but all the conventional testing is so outdated and insensitive that those infections are likely going to get missed by a conventional endoscopy or colonoscopy. Therefore, you're told your labs look fine. We don't have anything else for you to do. And now you just got anesthesia because you got put to sleep for the colonoscopy. Maybe you leave the hospital with an HAI, which is a hospital-acquired infection, because the scope was dirty from the last person they stuck it down, and you're no closer to the root cause. So today I want to help you guys understand that there are root causes to the issues that you're having. And so I'll just name a few. We've already hit them just briefly, but anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue, insomnia, joint pain, autoimmune issues, including Hashimoto's, Sjogren's, rheumatoid arthritis, a diagnosis of any brain condition, so Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia. All of these have a component of toxicity to them, meaning heavy metals, pesticides, chemicals, and mold toxin. We now know Dr. Bredesen's doing some work on ending Alzheimer's, and now he's really hitting mold hard. I hope to interview him on my podcast soon about this topic, but mold and Alzheimer's are intimately linked. And I'm seeing this clinically because we're seeing patients that come in with the diagnosis of a neurodegenerative disease. We simply find it's mold toxicity, we detox that, and then all of a sudden the Alzheimer's, the dementia symptoms improve significantly, and we're not using medication to do that. We're using natural herbs to kill the mold, and we're using binders to detox that. So what I'll do is I'm going to just run you through my credentials real quick. I'm a certified functional medicine practitioner. I've helped over 1,000 clients. I've had a podcast for over a decade. I've had 20 million downloads, and I quit counting, so it's more than that now. And I've worked with people around the world. I just had a client in Norway just a short time ago, and he's been to every doctor in Norway, and no one can help him. So now he's seeking my help with mold toxicity. A young guy, 26 years old, chronically fatigued, had mold exposure. No one can help. There's a picture of the credentials to make sure you know they're real. And the reality is, I suffered tremendously, and I only became a practitioner because I had to, because no one else could help me. I had consulted various doctors to try to help me. They only wanted to prescribe acid-blocking medications, which I did not want. They also wanted to prescribe antidepressants because I was depressed as long as I could remember. Now I will tell you that, looking back, I had mold exposure as a kid. My grandmother's basement flooded. I remember my feet were cold as a kid. I was putting my feet by a little space heater to try to keep my feet warm all the time. I just thought I had cold feet. Now we know mold toxicity affects nitric oxide production. So if you have, as a male, if you have weak erections, you have brain fog, you have fatigue, you have poor blood flow to the extremities, it could be related to mold toxicity impacting nitric oxide production. And so, yes, you can do beet powder to improve that, but the real root cause is simply treating the mold toxicity. Now, my situation's a little sticky, which we won't get too deep into, but I also had Bartonella, which is a bacterial infection that you can get from mosquitoes, fleas, and ticks. I had several tick bites growing up in Kentucky, and that bacteria can inflame the capillaries and create the same issue in regards to chronic fatigue, depression, anxiety, and the cold extremities. So my case may be more complex than yours, but once again, your doctor is not going to run these labs on you, and they're not going to get to the bottom of it. And so I think that we should just jump right into the story of my grandfather. My grandfather had mold exposure. He was on blood pressure medication. Remember, I just mentioned to you that nitric oxide gets impaired. So think of how many million people, millions and millions, we could look up the number, but it's huge, are on blood pressure medication. How many of those people simply have mold toxicity that is impairing their blood flow and creating a vasoconstriction effect, and the blood pressure drug is just the Band-Aid? So my grandfather got off of his medication after we detoxed him from mold. All of a sudden, guess what? His hands and feet were warm. They weren't cold anymore. And his energy improved, and, supposedly he still has sex. He's like 80 years old, and he's still got good erections. So, hey, good job, Grandpa. And that is the reality when you have good blood flow because you don't have mold in your body. Now,
Oh, wait, Evan, I just
Yeah.
want to say one thing. You're not saying don't get a colonoscopy to detect colon cancer, but it is often what I'm going to interpret what you said, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. My thing about it is that I've had two colonoscopies because before I got educated, I was very confused and thought why can't you figure out, my dear GI doctor, what's wrong with me? I've had two colonoscopies, and it was great for finding out that I didn't have colon cancer, but it wasn't great for finding out if I didn't have a parasite or a candida or things like that. So just want to clarify that. Thank you so much, Dr. Popkin, for mentioning that.
So I have friends that are GI doctors and they do colonoscopies all the time. The reality is with the advanced DNA testing we can run on the stool at home and with the Cologuard test, we can significantly reduce the amount of colonoscopies that need to be run because on a GI map stool test, which I can just go ahead and scroll ahead and show you a picture of that, on page 4 of a GI map stool test, which is something that I encourage every student in my course to take, we're going to be looking at a specific marker called calprotectin. This is well recognized in the gastroenterology world. This is a specific marker for gut inflammation. If this is elevated along with what we call occult blood, which is a microscopic bleeding in the intestines, we'll also typically see low pancreatic elastase. We'll also see elevated steatocrit, and we'll likely see low secretory IgA. So if you see this slew of issues in this category, we may push you for a colonoscopy. But I've actually seen clients with colon cancer, and we actually detected it here. It doesn't directly say yes, but I inferred, hey, tons of inflammation, tons of bleeding, major fat malabsorption, get a colonoscopy, and we found it. So to me, I can't speak totally out of my realm here, but I will say I've run thousands of these, and I would suspect we may see issues pop up here early before we even see it on the colonoscopy because we're measuring microscopic amounts of bacteria, tiny amounts of blood that may appear before a visual camera up the butt may detect.
Okay.
So that's that. We
My
could go on a
point
whole.
is do both. Let's
Yeah,
keep going.
yeah, you could. You could do both. And so, yeah, you did mention the home course. I had a huge house in Kentucky that didn't make me any happier than my small house, and so we sold it. But part of one of the courses that I built was that Better Home, Healthy Home course, where I showed you exactly what I did to improve the air quality in the home. Because the reality is, if you have a perfect supplement protocol from your practitioner, but you're getting exposed to VOCs from paints, glues from bad flooring and particle board, mold from your HVAC, your blower, your house has too much humidity, you're not going to get well in a sick environment. They call this sick building syndrome. And so what I did is I gave people a glorified house tour where you can go room to room and I'll teach you about the electromagnetic pollution, the dehumidification process, air filtration, water filtration, good paints, good flooring. You don't have to have $1 million to do this. There's things that you can do to improve your home now that are relatively inexpensive but will pay massive dividends for your health. And really, I just love making protocols. That's what I do every day, all day as I'm in clinic. I'm looking at lab results and I'm making protocols to help people. But I'm such a limited guy that my schedule, like right now, I'm booked out several months in advance. And I had a couple calls today with people that said, hey, I actually went and hired another practitioner because you were booked out so far. And that kind of broke my heart because now they're not happy with their protocol. So now they're still seeking my help. And so my way to alleviate that burden is to create a course where people can do it on their own. And so really the secret strategy of fixing your health issues, whether it is the fatigue, mood, sex drive, whatever, it's getting the proper testing run. And I've seen so many practitioners who run tests, but they don't know what to do with them. So like if you're begging your practitioner to run an organic acids test, that's a bad sign because when they get that test done, they're not going to know how to help you. I've run more of these organic acids than almost anyone. And what I've done is I've broken it down piece by piece to show you how to read your own labs at home because there's this disconnect in the medical world where the doctor is the overlord, you just bow down and listen. And that power shift is happening now to where now the patient is going to the doctor and saying, hey, why aren't you testing my thyroid antibodies? Why aren't you testing my stool? And so the people are fed up and they're demanding that there's more accountability and that there's more investigation being done. I'm giving you all the investigational tools to run on yourself at home. I'm not saying that I can totally replace the need for a one-on-one consult. If you're very sick, you may need that. But the vast majority of the students, which we have over 700 now, they've sent me amazing testimonials of fixing their own problems just by running through what I'm going to teach you.
Very cool.
So when you have these type of symptoms, you need to run just a few things, and really it's looking into mold. And I told you this already, but you can't get well in a sick environment. So this is a picture of some Petri dishes. We run these on almost every single client's home these days. We also run it on their office and their school building if they have sick children. And if you show up with some ugly Petri dishes, you likely have ongoing exposure in your home, potentially active water damage materials that are growing mold. Those molds fart out mycotoxins. You breathe those in, it suppresses your immune system, and then it contributes to the overgrowth of SIBO and candida. So what I'm telling you directly to the SIBO queen is, if you have a SIBO situation, you have to look upstream. 90+% of the time, it's mold that's driving the SIBO. No amount of SIBO protocol or SIBO diet will reverse that if you have mold exposure. And I found this out by failing and suffering, because my SIBO clients would do well for 2 to 3 months on herbal antimicrobials, and then all of a sudden we'd see a resurgence. This infection would come back. Their stool test looked amazing, and now it looks like a mess again. What the heck is going on? I went back and tested all those people using urine and Petri dishes. They all had mold in their home. They all had mycotoxins in their urine. And this was the big smoking gun that no one told me until I got sick from mold myself. And I had blood pressure problems. I had vertigo. I had issues with fatigue. I had issues with sleep. And I luckily figured it out with the help of a friend who said, hey, you've probably got mold. And that was my friend, Dr. Jack Wolfson, who's a cardiologist, who he got sick from mold too, and his wife did. And now this whole can of worms is open. And so when you all are looking in your home, your environment, and you're looking in your urine, which you see on this slide here, you're measuring the mycotoxins. These are the mold farts, and these accumulate over time. Genetically, about 25% of the population has a genetic defect, meaning you cannot detox this stuff. So your husband may be fine and you're sick. He thinks you're crazy. He thinks it's your hormones, it's menopause, could be part of it. But the reality is a lot of it is mold toxicity, and females generally have a bigger problem with mold toxicity because there's likely already an issue with estrogen dominance, where there's an imbalance between estrogen and progesterone. That gets exacerbated when you have mycotoxins. These mycotoxins are very estrogenic in most cases. This is why you see a lot of men with boobs. It's because these mycotoxins will increase estrogen levels, and this is why you see a lot of issues with low libido as well, where men simply just cannot maintain muscle mass and they have no sex drive. Men look more feminine, and on record now, men have the lowest average testosterone levels as well as the lowest sperm quality and quantity ever recorded in human history as of 2022. And I believe mycotoxins are a big part of that. This also affects fertility. I do not market myself as a fertility expert, but if you're a woman watching this, you've had miscarriages, you've had issues with your children, or you've had any sort of fertility problem, IVF is not root cause. And those IVF babies aren't necessarily the healthiest babies either, because the root cause was not addressed. And so I've been fortunate to see many women that were told they can't have babies detox using these protocols. They get pregnant, they have beautiful babies. And luckily, I've detoxed my kids. I did test my kids very early on. They did have mycotoxins. They go through the breast milk, they go through the placenta. So if you see the similar symptom in your child that you have, I see 3, 5, 6-year-old kids that can't stay awake in school. You shouldn't be that tired at age 5. A lot of it's mold toxicity. And so this is why you also want to test your kids' school. Am I all over the place, or is this making sense, Siobhan?
I think it works. Hey guys, would you do me a favor and take your questions and put them in the Q&A box? That's my bad. I didn't say that earlier. But that's the way we run these. After doing probably close to 100 of these. I don't know, maybe that's an overestimation, but I do a lot of masterclasses and webinars. So it works really well to just put your comments and questions in the Q&A box so I can manage them and get to them, and then just use the chat during the presentation for technical stuff so it's less distracting. Thank you in advance for that. So Amy, does the program address heavy metals, Evan?
I do show some heavy metal screens. I have several case studies. Basically, the course that I've developed is a clinical course, meaning it's hundreds of case studies I've taken from the clinic. I've put those into the course. I show you exactly what was wrong with someone, their symptoms, their age, exactly what their test results look like. We look at many of these GI map stool tests. I teach you how to read these. We look at parasite infections. We do look at heavy metals. We look at petri dishes. We look at mycotoxin levels, and then we make a protocol. Everything we're doing for detox of mold, which is the bigger priority, will also help heavy metals because I'm using broad spectrum nutrients, meaning we may use a blend of clay and zeolite and micronized chlorella that can help with heavy metals, chemicals, pesticides, and mold toxins. So yes, there are some case studies with a heavy metal component. That is a big piece of the puzzle if you've got a major issue with mercury, lead, cadmium, but that will come out as a side effect of doing everything else.
So, Catherine Popkin, MD, stool samples can be taken during colonoscopy. So make sure your GI does this. Parasites and bacteria cannot be seen during colonoscopy unless a large worm, right? You know, I have had the ovum and parasite test done like through Quest and LabCorp, and then also had it done through ParaWellness and the GI map. And they're just, it seems to be that these others are much more sensitive. If the O and P test shows positive, then you definitely have something. But if it shows negative, it doesn't necessarily mean you don't have anything. But if, you know, I think it'd be great to get your GI doctor to do that. But I think we need to cross pollinate, so to speak, and make sure you're getting all that test work covered. What do you think about citric acid used as a preservative in many foods? Do you recommend avoiding since it's grown on mold, or is that not a big deal?
I don't worry about it.
Okay.
There's much bigger fish to fry. Like if you've got a water leak in your bathroom, that's far more of a concern than citric acid in a supplement.
So we're talking here. Oh, this is the part of the protocol. Yeah.
Yes, I wanted to show people that it's important to not look for one silver bullet that's going to get you better. So when you break down a case of someone, everyone might blame the bacterial overgrowth, or they may blame the candida or the heavy metals. But the reality is, until you get all of the proper labs, meaning mycotoxin screening, petri dishes, organic acids to look for mold colonization, like in this case, this was a person who was growing mold actively. They're going to need herbal antifungals, and this is also a candida problem and a bacterial overgrowth problem. But until you've had these series of functional labs, you really are guessing. And you're probably going based on something you read on a Facebook group, like, I'm getting rid of oxalates. Oxalates are the devil, or it's histamine foods, or it's this food, or like, I'm going carnivore, I'm going vegan. And so a lot of people end up in these different camps, and some may argue it's a little cultish. And the reality is, all these people are just throwing darts to see what sticks. And you may get some results doing that, but the reality is you're still guessing. And so what I find is that maybe you got a heavy metal test done, but you've never had an organic acids done. You need all of it. You need the full picture. Otherwise, you're not going to know how to piece together a protocol. Because let's say like this case here, you just focus on heavy metals, but you ignore this mold colonization and candida problem. Well, you're likely not going to resolve your fatigue if you have fatigue. So heavy metals will make you tired, but so does mold. And so I think that's the problem I'm seeing clinically, is that people are getting some piece, but not all pieces. And you might spend a couple grand to do this, but the reality is a cancer diagnosis is extremely expensive. These mycotoxins we're talking about, like ochratoxin, is highly nephrotoxic. It damages the kidneys. It damages the cerebellum. We know that it's definitely linked to various types of cancer. And so I'm not saying that everyone who has mold will get cancer, but when you look at the end game of these chronic health conditions, it's not pretty. And this is totally reversible. You can fix these problems, and it's better to fix it now while you feel bad than when you've been given a death sentence. I've had clients reach out to me and they say, hey, my doctor gave me a year to live. What do I do? It's like, my God, I wish you would have had these labs done 5 years ago and we would have detoxed you by now. Maybe you wouldn't have had that terminal date added to your name. And so I'll skip ahead a little bit because I know time is short.
Yeah, I have to take my mom to a lab to pee in a cup, and because she has a chronic UTI, and Evan's going to help her. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to get her straightened out. So UTIs are often related to mold toxicity because it throws off the gut microbes. So dysbiosis in the gut is often, and this can happen in the vaginal tract too. This is often due to toxins. So let me just tell you about the bundle, and this is a crazy deal that we're going to get into.
What?
And there's two courses that I'm offering you. So number one is Better Belly, and I'll jump straight to the curriculum page
Thank
because
you.
I think you need to see it. And this is about 55-ish different lessons and videos. This is for practitioners. This is also for health seekers. I've had gastroenterologists take this course, and they've told me they've learned more in this course than they've learned in 20 years of practicing gastroenterology. That is not a made-up story. And I think it's just because I'm sharing the clinical pearls that they don't teach in medical school, which are about these infections that often get missed. So conventional blood testing, not good for parasites. DNA testing, much better. So I run you through the ideal timeline. How do you approach gluten? What about digestive enzymes? This is what the curriculum will look like once you're logged in. The signs and symptoms of various infections, case studies for IBS, autoimmune gut issues, candida problems, case studies on candida, stomach acid, supplementation, SIBO and SIFO case studies, H. pylori, C. diff, which is an infection that kills people in the hospital. They cannot treat it very effectively without heavy-duty antibiotics, and now even those antibiotics are not working. I teach you the herbal approach, which I've used hundreds of times. We do talk about some kids on the autism spectrum and how we've linked that to certain species of Clostridia and mycotoxins. We have some case studies on children on the spectrum in that. We go into some protocol creation. These are hours of videos where I'm on the call with my clients. You can see, you can hear them talk, you can hear them respond. We review the labs on the call so you can see how I interpret these and then how I confidently educate them about the protocol that we're going to use and then how we put together the protocol. And you get access to all the templates. So in regard to the dosing, that's all in there. So this sales page shows it. I've had incredible results. This was a client who ended up taking the course, Camila, and she said she's already testing and using protocols with her clients. So like, I'm not saying that this is going to teach you to be a clinician, but if you already are practicing, this is going to elevate your skills to where you can fix things you couldn't previously fix. And so you can scroll through this full curriculum. We'll have the link to the sales page for you all to check this out, but it's very comprehensive, and I'm adding new case studies all the time. So this was a histamine intolerance.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you for a second.
Go
That's
ahead.
the other thing. So I have a SIBO course I do with Dr. Allison Seebecker, and we were like in the beginning, we need to update this because the science is changing and observations are changing and all that. And so I only know of 2 other people that update their courses, and Evan Brand is one of them. So really, this is a great investment. Also, Evan has this course available for $14.97 day in and day out, and he has hundreds of people that have purchased it. And I was like, but Evan, I want to give my people the best price anywhere. So he gave us $500 off when you're getting which is huge. So it's $999 and
$997. Yeah. So like if you go in, so if you go into Enroll right now, this is you'll see $14.97.
Yeah.
You'll have to put in the coupon code right here for Siobhan. So there's $500 off right there. There's nowhere else you're going to find this discount because I just don't discount it because it's worth this. It's worth more than this, but this is what we're doing. So
I appreciate it.
So that's that. And then in addition to that, we're going to go ahead and give people the Better Home course if they enroll during this period, which is approximately the next week. You'll also get access to the Better Home course, which we sell like hotcakes for $400. And this is where we break down, there's my family. Aww. And we break down the Petri dishes. We talk about testing your home. We talk about treating your home. This is a curriculum there. So we go into fresh air intake systems. We talk about the slope of your property. We talk about fireplaces, kitchen lighting that's going to help optimize your sleep, how to prevent off-gassing from building materials in your kitchen, the non-toxic kitchen cleaning protocol that we use. We talk about gas versus EMF electric stoves. We talk about a specific laundry solution that we formulated to help with mold in your clothing. We talk about the bedroom sanctuary, making a safe office that is not exposing you to EMF. We talk about creating a waterproof, non-toxic basement. And then there's some other, there's like a 45-minute presentation about working with a builder. I've worked with several builders. How do you negotiate with your builder? Sometimes they're old school. They don't want to listen to your suggestions of building materials. So that's all in that. And then we've also got some case studies of mold toxic patients in there. And then we've got some extra talks with my friend Dr. Margaret Christensen, who's an MD. She's amazing. We did a talk on mold and candida that's in there. My friend JW, who owns a mold inspection company, top 10 ways to improve air quality, and then how to test and treat your home. So this is just a free bonus because Siobhan told me that I should. So that course that's $400 you'll get in addition to the $500 off Better Belly.
Yeah. We kept going back and forth. I was like, yeah, but. And he's like, but. I'm like, yeah, but. I'm like, Evan, come on now. Come on.
Yeah.
Huh? We've been planning this webinar since like February. I'm like, come on. So I really twisted his arm. So thanks for being flexible. I really appreciate it, Evan. So I trust this course. I trust Evan. I believe that this is information we all need to have. Even if you don't go through it all right this second, you're going to have time in the future where you're going to be like, yeah, absolutely. I got my oats test, which is the organic acids test, to answer your question, Tracy, which you can purchase through Evan. And this is, so I immediately showed it to him and he was very generous to go, oh my gosh, look, you're not colonized for mold anymore. So that was a huge breakthrough and very exciting. So, whenever I have a weird medical situation, I call Evan. I'm like, dude, what's going on here? But I was in mold denial for over 20 years in a television station that was basic below sea level, as I pray now for my friends who are in Florida, experiencing the hurricane as we speak. But the water damage there was not obvious, and then until it was for me, because my cup just runneth over. I have friends who work there still and they are not affected. I have other friends who I've seen deteriorate in health over time from being there in that building, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, etc.
Yeah, Siobhan, I was just talking to my wife about that at lunch, and I told her, I said, honey, think about the hundreds of thousands, potentially million plus people now that are going to have a water damaged building. I've already seen some of the videos floating around today of the hurricane where these apartment complexes, these condos are just completely flooded, and they've evacuated and they're going to come back. And if that water damage is not dried up within 48 hours, you've got mold growth and you're going to start to have active mycotoxin production. So these people are going to come back into these environments. They're going to have fatigue, headaches, migraines, insomnia, low sex drive. They're going to have issues with their children, likely with headaches. Belly pain is how kids usually manifest it. Mommy, daddy, my belly hurts. So then we'll start to see issues with thrush. We'll see sugar cravings. So yeah, that was one of my students chiming in, Dr. Judy. Hey, thanks for coming. So yeah, Judy, Dr. Judy, she enrolled in my course, and then she's also done some a la carte paid consults with me too. So if we do have practitioners that take it, I do have paid one-on-one calls. And what they'll do is they'll present the case to me. They'll show me the protocol they've created, and then I give them the thumbs up. And 99% of the time, the students blow me away because the protocol is perfect and they get really good results.
And again, mold denial is real, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have active exposure now or recently. It can be from a long time ago. My husband, so this just happened, Evan. I didn't even tell you this. My husband's birthday happened, and I took him to this very special museum that is so nerdy. It's not even funny, and it was amazing. And it's called the Museum of Precision Instruments. Super nerd alert. And it was awesome. So it was about interchangeable parts and blah, 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 automation and stuff, and it was fascinating. So I got him a special tour up in the archive. And David is like, his father was a coal mining engineer, blah, blah. So he was just like a kid in a candy store. Well, he was supposed to be up there for an hour, which is way too long. He took his freaking mask off because he couldn't breathe or couldn't see. And he comes out of there. He's bright red after 3 hours, by the way. He's bright red and he didn't really feel well that night. Okay, you see where this is going. And he started to feel better. And then we just came back from a yoga retreat where I treated him to a facial where he got all Ayurvedic up and they had steam on his face. So now he's breathing in all this moisture. Well, don't you know the man's been home for the past 2 days, sick as a dog. So I theorize that those little spores got in his nose and then they got the moisture and he is in need. So I'm going to take all this information and apply it to him and get him fixed up. But it can happen in so many, I know it sucks. It can happen in so many different ways. And it depends on your genetics and all of that and that estrogen, everything that you've been talking about. But please consider it. I'm not saying that everyone is mold because they don't. But if you have an unresolved issue medically, you need to find out what's going on with these mycotoxins and these fungus. And you're talk about root cause. This is where I would suggest looking, especially if you haven't been able to find it after multiple tries and attempts.
Yeah, and Siobhan, keep in mind, like mold is just a piece of the puzzle, okay? There's cases I still see every week in the clinic where they are simply gut cases, meaning bacterial overgrowth,
Yes.
candida, parasites, worms, H. pylori infections that get passed between each other, and there's not a mold piece to it. So sometimes we
Thank
get
you.
those
Right.
lucky cases.
Yeah.
This course is designed to fix all of that. It just so happens that during me building the curriculum for the course, I got sick with mold, and then I started failing with clients, and they would have these relapses. And then I figured out, holy crap, well, mold is actually higher up on the priority list than SIBO because mold is contributing to the SIBO. And actually, the labs will tell you that now. If you look at the printout of your mycotoxin report, the lab tells you right there, this mycotoxin promotes the overgrowth of bacteria, including Clostridia and Candida. So here I was working downstream on the infections, not working upstream on the toxin. We had a comment in from Linda. She said she lives in the Arizona high desert. I doubt mold is an issue. You're totally wrong. I had a client in Arizona today. She has a massive mold problem. She had a plumbing leak. It doesn't matter about the outdoor environment. I live in Florida now, and I feel way better than I did in Florida than I did in Kentucky. Kentucky, I felt way worse. And so the outdoor ecosystem, the outdoor environment does have some impact on you, but we're not talking outdoor environment here. We're talking indoor molds, which are feeding on water damage materials from excess humidity and or water leaks. So if you have a small bathroom, you take a very long hot shower, you don't have an exhaust fan on, that humidity over time gets seeped into the walls. You could start growing mold on the back of that drywall, that paper backing in your drywall. So trust me, I've got countless Arizona, Colorado. Supposedly it's dry. Doesn't freaking matter. I've got the labs to prove it.
So one of the things about Evan is that he's very direct. He does not have time to waste. So
well, too many people are sick. So I got to tell you
know.
straight up.
I
You know,
know.
I've got
I know.
Phoenix,
I know.
Arizona clients out the wazoo.
I know. Evan has said some things to me that I did a double take. And I was like, not wrong. Thanks, Evan. So I just wanted to let you know that if you want straightforward information and inspiration and things that you will not find easily elsewhere. And ultimately, I personally have experienced a money savings by working with this course because I had an old oats test. I was able to look at that. I was able to look at my new oats test. I was able to do the comparison. I was able to understand what was going on because of the course material. So this is an abbreviated webinar. You know, sometimes I think we should make everything a half an hour because we're all so overloaded and busy, and that maybe more people would watch if they knew it was only a half an hour. And other times I'm like, no, let's go for 4 hours. So it's just one of those things where I do have to leave early today because my mom or godmother, however you want to call her. And so I just wanted to invite you to take this course with Evan. I definitely think it's worth it. I have people every day approach me, Siobhan, would you do a webinar for me? Siobhan, can you promote my course? Siobhan, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, I really appreciate what you're up to, but I'm sticking with the people that I have. And while I'm simultaneously always looking for new innovations and new information for people who I think are really offering something legitimately special. And that's what I think this is. You don't have to buy
Couple more things, Siobhan.
Evan. Go ahead.
What 1 to 2 minutes, couple more things.
Yep.
Inside you'll have access to the protocols like this, so you'll see an example of exactly what we're using supplement wise. We're using various professional brands, including my own and other professional brands. I show you exactly the dosing, the timing, how much, how often. And then remember, you're looking at a case, 46-year-old Sally, headaches, migraines, PMS. Oh, that's me. You'll compare your labs. My office can help facilitate this. The labs are sent to your door. That is an additional cost. You order the labs with our assistants. You look at these cases. You figure out, look at Sally. She's just like me. Here's the protocol that Evan used to fix her. Let me try that protocol. 90+% of the people do not even need one-on-one help because the protocols are so refined over the last decade of me doing this. Also, you'll get the liver and gallbladder root cause rescue plan. That's just a little extra guide that I've thrown in. And then remember, you are getting the Better Home, Healthy Home course as well. And this is some crazy stuff, but look at the rates of glyphosate, look at the rates of mycotoxin. We talk about this. We talk about EMF measuring tools. We talk about mitigating EMF. We go into both of So Healthy Home covers EMF, building materials. Better Belly is your belly. It's your adrenals, it's your liver, it's your lymphatics, it's the drainage pathways, it's the binders, it's the brain support. And I just had a person enroll today for $14.97. Hopefully they're not in here and they're mad now, but this course does sell every day at $1,500, and the Healthy Home Better Home sells at $399. So you're talking give or take $2,000. You're getting both for less than $1,000. But remember, when you go on the page, you go to this enrollment page.
Marissa, can you post that again for me, please? Yeah.
So it'll show up, and then you just have to put in
coupon code.
Siobhan. That's a secret. Sorry,
Yep.
Dr. Judy. She's already paid, but there's the 500 off that you'll get for that.
Thank you, Evan. The other thing is, and someone just asked me about this, Evan will give us your name and email that you've ordered, and you will also be getting the IBS and SIBO SOS Rescue Summit. So it's one of my most comprehensive summits that I've ever done about IBS and SIBO from the perspective of my experts, and I'm throwing that in too, and that's like well over $100 value. So it's a very special combination, and I really hope you're going to join us for it because it is well worth it. A lot of us have a lot of functional tests that we've already done or have wanted to do, and we're like, how do you go about it? There's that whole barrier to entry with maybe a delay on getting to see a practitioner. You don't know who to talk to. So this is a beautiful way to DIY. If you're super, super sick, maybe you're going to have to need to talk to him, and you can set up a consultation with him. That is an extra charge. But this is a great place to start. And this is a wonderful opportunity for you. If someone has a specific question, can they reach out to your Ann in customer service?
Yeah, so office@evanbrand.com, office@evanbrand.com. Reach out if you have questions. And we should hook up Dr. Judy too with that summit, Siobhan. She's awesome and she's helping people. So we should just give her access to that, and we'll figure out some kind of deal for the Better Home if she wants to take that too. Because my practitioners, like, I'm trying to clone myself. I'm trying to replicate what I'm doing because I only have so many hours. I've got kids. I'm busy. Like, I need other people doing what I'm doing because this is what's helping. And I'm not too dogmatic in the sense of like, this is the only way. I'm just telling you what works. And I'll tell you straight up, if I fail, and I'll show you that in a case study, like, hey, look at this first protocol. We did good, but we didn't fix the candida. So this is the second round. This is how we fixed it. And I walk you through my mistakes. And I think that's important because there is no perfect black or white protocol. You are a breathing, living human flesh vehicle with different exposures, different environment, different traumas. Like, all of this goes in. So there's not this perfect cookie cutter recipe. If someone tries to sell you on that, run. It doesn't work like that. The body is too unique. Our unique experiences, our mindset. I had a woman earlier, mold toxicity off the charts, but her mindset is so optimistic that she feels better than a pessimistic client who has much less toxicity. So, like,
very good point.
Mindset. I mean, that's a piece as well.
That's a very, very good point. Okay. Welcome and thank you. I didn't mean to say welcome, we're wrapping. Thank you. And Evan, thank you. If you have questions, reach out to Evans. And if you have Dr. Judy, reach out to us at info@sibosos.com. What's your email address one more time? I'll pop it into the chat.
Office@evanbrand.com. If they have questions, they can email my staff. We'll get back to you within a day or two. And if you have questions about this or more like curriculum-based questions, ask us. But, this is an opportunity for you to take your health into your own hands, get the proper testing done, get the answers you've been looking for, and figure out the missing pieces, because it only takes one missing piece to change your entire life. I was treating Lyme. I was treating Bartonella. I didn't know that I had mold until I had mold, and then there it was. And thank the Lord, I'm slowly but surely recovering. This is not a linear path. This is a little bit of a roller coaster. You're going to feel good. You're going to feel bad. You go up and down, but the trajectory is always up. Better, 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 more vitality. You've got things to do, kids to take care of, a partner, a spouse to be present with. You cannot help and take care of others if you're sick yourself. So really, you got to get yourself feeling amazing. Otherwise, you can't achieve all your dreams.
And your missions, exactly. Okay, if you wanted to hear the beginning again, etc., we are going to be sending this out in a replay along with the link to order and the coupon code Siobhan, which I think expires like October 3rd. It's coming up. So, but we give you a couple of days. Okay, thank you, everybody. Take care. Thanks, Evan. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye now.
Thanks all. Bye-bye. Look for your email. I'll be sending it out shortly.